The Indiana Pacers are very impressive. So far early on into the season, the Pacers have gotten off to a 10-8 record, which is definitely an impressive one, especially considering the expectations they had coming into the season, but especially when you consider the fact that a lot of their main guys are playing at such a high level, it's even that much more impressive. And in my personal opinion, I think what we've seen from the Pacers so far this season has been great, but the best part about it is they're only going to get better with time. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm JuicySports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. When the Indiana Pacers decided to move on from one of their star players in Domantas Sabonis not too long ago in exchange for Tyrese Haliburton, it was seen as an extremely favorable move for the Pacers. Although Sabonis was definitely a player that was pretty valuable, he was a guy that did a lot of nice things from that big man position, the guy they were getting in return was a young point guard that had a ton of potential in the future. And typically when you look at NBA organizations, probably the most important position you can look for is a star point guard, especially a young star point guard that's only going to get better with time. And ever since making that deal, things have looked extremely bright for Indiana. As soon as Tyrese made it to the Pacers, he played at an extremely high level. As in his first year with the Pacers, he averaged 17.5 points per game on 4.3 boards and 9.6 assists. And one of the bigger reasons for why Tyrese specifically was such an important player for Indiana to bring in was due to the fact that not only himself individually can score at a really high and really efficient level, but he also has the capability to make everybody around him better. And in his first season with the Pacers, we saw him doing a really nice job at just getting open looks for guys and making some of the younger players that the Pacers already had even better than they were prior to that trade. Now the season following that, which was last year, Haliburton had a really good season as well, averaging 20 points per game on 3.7 boards and 10.4 assists. And during that 2022 season, Tyrese was doing a really nice job at building off what he was able to do the season prior, while also at the same time playing winning basketball out there. But moving on to the 2023 year, which is this season, Tyrese is by far having the best year of his career. As so far this season, he's averaging 27 points per game on 3.6 boards and 11.8 assists. Just phenomenal numbers. And when you look at the Indiana Pacers as an organization, they're clearly playing a lot better this season than they were in the past. And I definitely do think there are a couple different factors for why that is, but clearly the main factor has to be the addition of Tyrese Haliburton. What Tyrese was able to do ever since he got to the Pacers, but especially this season, has been incredible to watch. He's a guy that's able to score at an extremely high level, whether you talk about from that 3-point range, whether you talk about from that mid-range, or driving all the way to the basket. And due to the fact that Tyrese has turned into such an efficient and effective scorer, that even helps his passing and playmaking ability out a little bit as well when teams send double or triple teams at him. And due to that, he gets a lot of open looks for other guys, which in turn just makes a lot of these other younger players the Pacers have on their roster even better and live up to their potential even faster. So I definitely do think the addition of Tyrese Haliburton is a huge reason for why the Pacers have been playing so well this year. But the next reason for why I think the Pacers have been playing so well so far this year is due to the coaching staff. Now I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but I think when you have a really young team, which the Pacers clearly are, it's extremely important to have veteran presences within your organization. Now that could be in the form of veteran players, or that can even be in the form of coaches, which in this case scenario, that's exactly what it is. But the reason why it's so important to bring in veterans within your organization is because although a lot of these young guys do play at a really high level, that's why they were able to make it to the NBA and play well so far, with veteran guys on your organization, those players and those coaches in this circumstance are going to do a really nice job at teaching the young guys how to play at the NBA level. Whether that means actual X's and O's on the court, whether that means how to train off the court, whether that means any other questions those younger guys would have, it's just extremely important overall to have veterans within your organization. But I think specifically talking about this Pacers team, when you have a guy in Rick Carlisle who's had a ton of coaching experience in the past but has also had a ton of success, I think it's that much more important and that much more of a perfect fit for Rick Carlisle to come into this relatively young Pacers roster and teach these young guys how to play at the NBA level. So I definitely do think Rick Carlisle is also a huge reason for why the Pacers have been playing a lot better as of late. Now, the next reason for why I think the Pacers are playing at a really high level this season is due to the experience a lot of these younger guys have gotten. Because when you look at a lot of the players on the roster, especially some of their main guys like Tyrese Haliburton, Miles Turner, Benedict Mathurin, Buddy Hield, and some others, a lot of those guys have been playing together for a little bit of time at this point, and due to that, they were able to build some camaraderie together and get better chemistry overall. And I do also mention in a lot of my videos that chemistry is extremely important for any organization, but especially an organization that's as young as the Indiana Pacers are. And the reason for why that is if you know where your guys are going to be out there on the court, it just makes everything else easier. It's going to be easier to facilitate to your teammates and get them open looks. It's going to be easier to score for yourself because you know the spacing of your teammates, and it just makes a lot of different things easier. Because playing in the NBA is already hard enough, but if you also aren't able to be on the same page with your teammates, it just makes your life and their life that much harder, and it just makes it that much more difficult to have success at the NBA level. But I definitely do think the fact that a lot of these Pacers players have gotten some extra time to build that camaraderie and build that chemistry has certainly also played a pretty significant role for why they've been able to play so well so far this season. But the next question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, where do I see the Pacers going from here? Not only during the rest of this season, but also in the long-term future. Well, in my opinion, I definitely do think the Pacers clearly have a very bright future ahead of themselves. Whenever you have a guy like Tyrese Haliburton on your team to be your main guy, you're always going to have a bright future. I do think Tyrese already at this point has proven the ability to play at a really high level in a lot of different ways. Whether you talk about scoring the basketball, whether you talk about facilitating, whether you talk about playing defense, there's just a lot to like about this guy. But even besides Tyrese, I do think the Pacers have a lot of other guys on the roster that are either pretty good at this point or gonna get better in the long-term future. And some of those guys that I really like are Obi Toppin, Miles Turner, Bruce Brown even, Benedict Mathurin, Buddy Hield. There's just a ton of players on this roster that either are playing very well now or have the potential to get a lot better in the long-term future. So due to that, I think the Pacers are going to end up making the playoffs this season and playing pretty well, but also in the long-term future, I fully expect this Indiana Pacers team to only get better. And I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever within the next 2 or 3 seasons if the Indiana Pacers are a legitimate championship threat. I do think there is a long way to go from where the Pacers are at this point to that point, but at the same time, I do think the Pacers are capable of doing something like that in the next 2 or 3 seasons. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening, not only this season, but also in the long-term future for the Indiana Pacers. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Why, in your opinion, do you think the Pacers have looked so impressive so far this year? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now. And until the next time, peace out, guys.